Start.
नमस्कार, वेलकम टू कॉमन इंडियन वॉइस। आजकल कॉमेडी के बारे में ना बहुत सी बातें हो रही है। आप लोगों ने गोलमाल देखी है या चुपके चुपके, जो पुरानी वाली गोलमाल है, न्यू वाली नहीं, या फिर महाराष्ट्रियंस जो है उन्होंने कॉमेडी सीरीज आ रही है एक टीवी पे, तो वो देखी है क्या? वो देख के आई स्टिल रिमेम्बर, वो जब हम देखते थे ना, वी वुड बी laughing till tears roll down our cheeks. Aajkal, God alone knows, we have a comedian who is most of the time sexist, and we have a lot of people, we address them as wokes, they address themselves as wokes, and उन लोगों का क्या कहना है? We are regressive and they are very progressive. I don't know what it is, and I'm trying to find answers like many of them. And for such answers which are troubling us, today I have two panelists. I think my viewers will be again very, very happy to see Nandini ma'am. Welcome, Nandini ma'am. And Nandini ma'am is as you know, a very well-known person on Twitter. She is an interior architect and she writes very well. And the other one is Sameer, but we know him as Besura Tansin. And I have yet to come across a person with such wit. He is a very witty person, and his tweets, most of the times I'm laughing when I read his tweets. Welcome both of you. Namaskar.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you for the kind words, Ishadi.
So, Nandini ma'am, I'll begin with you. What do you make of all these things? What do you have to say about the incident that happened yesterday? Means a person, Veer Das, he goes out of the country and he comes up with such weird statements and he calls it comedy.
I think I have, I'll break the response into two parts. One is the content of this comic and the other is the intent. So I would think that, in my opinion, I've never really enjoyed his comedy. I've never found it has any depth. I find it a very shallow look at, a very shallow mirror to society. And it's never really made me laugh or think or look at it, in that way. So call me biased, but I've never found him funny at all. The other part of it is the intent of his shows. You can find in any country, take US, UK, Canada, any country in the world, they're always extremes, they're always two sides, the black and the white. He chose to speak about India, that's his country, whatever he knows about it. Evidently, what he knows is through a certain prism and his opinion. If he chooses to say that about his country, it's his free will. But I think he took a very short and a shortcut way to fame. That's my opinion on the matter. It's very easy to go somewhere else and say things which people want to hear and say things which validates their biases against us. It's very easy to do that, and I think he did that, and let him enjoy his 15 minutes of fame. But he doesn't come across as a stand-up comic that you would look out for, search his opinions, his humor. He doesn't come across. I think he comes across as his humor is very babalog. It comes from a certain depth, which comes in when you've lived a privileged life. You go to exclusive schools. You might go to a bus to school and have your didi carry your bag and your, a water bottle for you. You go on to study overseas, and then you see India from their eyes. That's the first time you really look at India and you see it from their eyes. You see it through Washington Post and New York Times and CNN and BBC. And then you tell us what you think of us from their perspective and give it to them and say, yeah, I agree exactly what you said. What you showed me, what you fed me about my country, I agree with you. And I think he comes across like that. I just don't have any respect for somebody who takes a shortcut to fame. And that's all I have to say about the man.
Absolutely. I would like to know, why is there such a lot of wokeism? Why is it rising in our country? What exactly do you think is responsible for it?
wokeism started as, I believe, it's a lexicon in, the American African culture. I stay woke, I am woke. It was the awareness which came into people, into a class of people which was discriminated over, generations, and it had a meaning to it. Now it's, for simple-minded folk who want to feel good about themselves, it's again that shortcut, that attention span of hanging on to issues which makes them feel compassionate, morally superior, and in touch with everything, and has that 2-minute definition to anything they believe in without knowing history, geography, whatever. So, I mean, wokeism is really for simple-minded people, just to make them feel a part of a very cool club, which I think it's the hottest religion today, as they call it. But it's something which will happen and go on. It's a dumbing down of society, so to speak.
Samir, I would like to know your take on wokeism, please.
So Nandini is very aptly summarized, wokeism, and very little left for me to say. But yes, I guess it's as they say, it's about fitting in and trying to latch on to certain buzzwords. I would go back to a little video that went viral when the CAA protests were happening in Mumbai. And there was this young girl, perhaps in her late teens, maybe 18. So she was visiting from the US. And I mean, you can listen to her for about 10 seconds, and the rolled R's will tell you it's one of those. So she was quizzed by one of the reporters there, and she went on, I want to fight for equality, and this is discrimination, the standard buzzwords. And then the big question came up: do you know what is the CAA? And do you know why you're here? Oh, I don't know why I'm here. So that was it, So so it's all about being there, being photographed, the Instagram reels, being a father to a teenager, who keeps, feeding me with a lot of interesting stuff. Thankfully, he doesn't belong to the set of books. So I can feel good that I've raised a good child. And he's very well aware of what's going on. And he does his bit to, try and make people see sense. But I guess the crux of it, as Nandini said, it's just about trying to fit. And coming to, if you would permit me and I'll take a minute more about the Veer Das thing. As Nandini said, it's both the content and the intent. And maybe it's conjecture at this point in time, but I wouldn't hesitate to put my money where my mouth is right now, because it all seems to be a part of a careful construct to paint, again, vilify India as a place where majoritarianism was on the rise, and all the other negative attributes around rape and lynching. And because, the Kennedy Center, such a large audience, to someone like Veer Das, a little difficult to believe. I mean, guy, he's not comedy. I mean, seriously, I mean, so we grew up from, I'm not talking about, so when you talk about Pula Deshpande in Marathi, or, the Jerry Seinfelds or the classic MASH series, which were classic cut comedies, there were comedians who had, jokes loaded with innuendo, but they weren't crass. I could sit with my parents as a teenager and watch them. I wonder how he's able to go back home and face his parents after making such crude and crass statements on social media or in public appearances, and the people who laugh at these jokes, that just beats me, I mean, honestly, I don't know. Sorry.
Yes, please, ma'am.
I also have a feeling that a lot of it is cowardice, because and then from cowardice comes maliciousness. They never seem to push the envelope it comes to humor about anything else or anybody else or other sections of society where there's plenty to laugh about, there's plenty to show the mirror. They always take the coward way out, is that you go and needle or poke fun at people where there's the least repercussion, the least consequence. If a stand-up comic was to stand up and show us the mirror of every section of our society, we would say, that this guy talks sense, he has depth, he has a maturity, he makes you think. I would give them credit for that. But this is like, the fastest, easiest way, and the same cliches, which are now getting so repetitive that you wonder. And the people who were there were probably also the same Babalog audience. If the Indian lot he said, give out a shout out for, if you want the India to be, you're the India you care for, and so on, and they called out. It makes you think. It caters to a certain audience, it caters to a certain bias, and to each his own. I mean, I wouldn't give it any more importance than it deserves, and it doesn't deserve any importance. It really, truly doesn't. We've got to have that much confidence and say, bolte ho. हमने कहीं नहीं जाना है, हम यहाँ हैं. So,
exactly.
Yeah.
Sameer, I just saw your tweet. You have quoted a few of his tweets, and all the tweets are sexist. So my next question, are these people not perverse and frustrated? God knows. That is what comes to our mind. But then what makes me scared actually is that, if these are the influencers, what impact are they going to have on young minds somewhere, like Nandini ma'am said, that the people, they try to fit in. So what about the people, what about the kids?
So if you remember, there was this group that came up, I think it was called AIB, if I'm not mistaken, they were downright crass. And this is a pattern across all these so-called, I don't even want to call them comedians, but let's call them for the sake of this discussion. They're all, as Nandini said, it's classic stereotyping, picking the softest section of the society, pervert, crude jokes with the smattering of four-letter words every 10 seconds. And I mean, even if there's nothing funny in it, people would laugh when when a profanity is heard at the crowd, So wonder really what's as I said, Ishadi, if you noticed when I posted those old tweets of his, I posted 2 tweets. One is the amount of stink that's raised. We probably need a septic tank to isolate that stink right now. And the other thing is, this guy needs therapy. He's as they would say in the US Army, he's FUBAR. Now, please don't ask me to elaborate on what FUBAR is, but he is completely messed up there. There was another colleague of his called Tanmay Bhatt, if I'm not mistaken. I mean, these guys claim to be champions of various rights, but his couple of his tweets amount to pedophilia. And I mean, the guy he really needs help. If someone could, I don't even want to say what he's, but I don't recall very well. But these people are twisted, honestly. I mean, I see a pattern. We probably, we don't jump. If you know me well, I mean, I don't judge and don't jump to conclusions so fast. But if you see a whole lot of tweets that have come up right now over the last few years, all of them with a similar kind of a pattern, with a downright perverse sense of mind, I think the guy needs help. Yeah, I don't know what to say, to be very honest. And he's probably got his 15 minutes of fame, and the whole nation's talking about him right now. And as usual, I mean, we're all getting our RTs and feeling good about it. But on a more serious note, I mean, the guy is he's
weird.
And you're right, we can't have such influencers, and the responsibility lies with us as parents. I mean, if that's where we miss the trick. A lot of affluent families, they believe that once they've enrolled their child into a good school, their job is done, and the teachers would take care of everything. But I don't think that holds true anymore, because teachers are a small percentage of the overall influence that is exerted on kids. A lot of it comes from social media and the other areas of exposure. We never had all of that. So we would listen to what a teacher said, come back and read an encyclopedia if we want to find out something, you know. So I think as parents, we have, I think rather than blame the child, I think a lot of parents have missed the trick out here in figuring out when they lost their child, to be honest.
True. It's a tougher job, you know, with all the influences and the influences which come into your home through internet and so on and so forth. It is a tougher job. But, you know, every generation has had fools who've tried to influence you and take you away. When we were in school, we had our own set. It was a simpler world, of course. But there were these influences. And then the home grounding and your other people you meet, your families, and you know, the friends that you introduce to your parents and who they vet for you, those make a difference. And I think these people play a limited life and they have limited shelf life. And that is why in that little time frame, they have to shock, they have to get, you know, that spotlight on them for a little while. There is a certain way of approaching a subject which will get them eyeballs. It is very, very superficial. And I think, yes, your child can be easily taken in by this for a moment, but it needs interaction, communication, and every generation has had people who can, you know, in our time, we had a lot of singers who were, you know, Western singers who were like Doors and so on, who lived a lifestyle which was absolutely, you know, they said their genius came from chemicals. And we could have gone and said, oh, yes, you know, we can follow this path. But there were restraints, there was family, there were other influences. So I think, you know, these guys are very inconsequential. They're a little blip in a history of a society or social construct. You know, I wouldn't care too much for them.
Coming back to wokeism, I personally think that wokeism, you know, now is equated with communists, and I don't know what they are trying to do. Actually, I have stopped trying to understand what they are trying to do. I mean, a man dressing up like a girl and saying that I'm able to empathize. Do you need to dress up like a girl or a lady to empathize? That's something I could not understand. And how do you think that we can change these things? You know, yeah, we can brush them. We can say that, yeah, it's a phase. Of course, it's a phase. Like I told you, like you have said, we also had Beatles, we had ABBA, we had Bonham. So we were also somewhere influenced by such people. That was a phase in our life. But then nowadays with the internet, and I am personally asking because I'm a teacher and I come across students all the time. So, you know, I have lots and lots of, what should I say, panic moments when I interact with students.
Yes, I can imagine so. Yeah. I actually, you know, maybe I'm just the wrong generation to ask this from. Maybe Samir is, you know, more. But I think, you know, every society goes through a churn. Every society goes through the old part. You know, people want to reject the old, the younger people. It's happened at every stage in life. I mean, at least from the 40s onwards. From Second World War, society has been going through Western society, now our society. We've been late to the table. But, you know, it has been going through a churn. And you cope with it each in its own time. I think the first unit, the family has to be very strong. And the outer unit. And that is how you move towards like a block. It's like, you know, how you keep the virus out. And you have to do that. And every generation has its challenges. I look at this as just another phase. It will be dangerous. It can shake you up. But you have to survive it and move on, like all other previous generations have done. I mean, there was a time when integration of schools in the US was considered, it's like, it will change society completely. And my God, the way they stood up against it, sane people just 50 years ago. Can you imagine? They didn't want the Black children to come into their schools. And what must have they thought about it? And how did they cope with it? And what did they think will happen to their children by both sides? So society has gone through so many challenges. What's one man in a dress? I mean, I think we can handle him. I mean, I look at it that way. Yeah. Maybe I don't have young children, so I'm not worried that way. But you would know, you're right there. But I think it's just one more challenge for people, for families, for education. And we have to move beyond it. I don't think you can stop anything. There's always a time for everything. You can't stop it. You can't brush it under the carpet. You're just postponing the problem for a while. Face it the best you can.
Yes, Samir?
Ishadi, yeah. So there's a very, I read about it, and it probably merits more understanding. So there's a theory I read some time back about the weakening of the Y chromosome. And over a period of time, that theory suggests that the male is going to is going to get more and more effeminate over a period of time due to this specific weakening of the Y chromosome, and which is perhaps what is being manifested in some sections of our society, at least in the urban youth right now. I mean, not the youth, but probably the teenagers. Because if I see a group of kids today, again, at the risk of trying to see, I'm not trying to stereotype, but it probably might come across that way. I see that the girls are more ready to take charge of a situation. Mm-hmm. The boys are a little more, if I can be politically incorrect here on this forum, but I don't know if you're going to publish it on YouTube, I'd rather not say that. But there is that little wishy-washy, like you said, what you said. So it is happening, and there's got to be more to it than meets the eye. I being an engineer, I would like to, and someone who spent 2 decades in medicine, I would like to believe that this genetics of engineering, engineering of genes and genetics is real, and this theory probably is true. I shudder to imagine what would happen to us males after 50 more years if this continues. We probably have everyone going around in science. so as Nandini said, let's leave it. This is a blip probably, but yeah, this is interesting. I'll send you the link, both the two of you, and maybe you could read up on it. It's a very interesting. It's a very short theory, but maybe there's more reading material on it.
Okay, now I want to come to a bit serious matter. Like, okay, fine, we have. I will not use any abusive words, but we have weird people around us and doing weird things. But what about the people who call themselves intellectuals coming up in large numbers to support such people? What about them?
There is an agenda here. Yeah. See, Ishadi, sorry, Nandini,
no, I'm not saying it. Carry on.
So it's an oft-repeated line, but today the political bias has subsumed everything else around it. So let's say, for example, the Modi phobia has eventually, or over a period of time, transcended into phobia for everything else that he stands for. So if they can take a dig at a particular section of society which they believe Modi represents, and or an ideology that he represents, or even a reform that he represents, they will back it up without any basis. Which is why if you see a lot of my comments, I don't engage with that with those people. You either rebut them with facts and move on, or treat them with the disdain they deserve, because most of their comments are senseless, baseless, factually redundant. And there is this entire society is rallying around it, around this pervert, because they believe that by doing so, and they're drawing false equivalences with what, to Kangana. So, for example, so where there's actually no comparison. Kangana has only repeated what a lot of other people have said. Arvind Kejriwal said, I wanted Swaraj. Someone else also said, I wanted Swaraj. There's a section of society that said, Hame Azadi chahiye. The Guardian said, in the true sense of it, the British power, which continued from 1947 to 2014, eventually we got our own self-rule. So there's a lot of, but when you want to draw false equivalences, you could do anything, like Salman Khurshid is so brazenly drawn, and the damage is done. I mean, whatever in his mind, we reject it and we move on, because these people are, as I said, Fubar again. There's no point in engaging with this sense of with this section. We just rebut them with facts, with satire, and carry on. That's what I would look at it.
There's no doubt. I would say that first of all, we need to redefine what is an intellectual in this country, because everybody who speaks English is not an intellectual. So that is a very big thing, that everybody who speaks English speaks it well, and with a certain accent, he becomes intellectual, and then on to Einstein. So first, let's get that sorted out. And most, as Samir said, you rebut them with facts, you rebut them with logic, they have nothing to say. So, when you have, as he said, there is always a chorus. So you have a certain event, and then like bees, there's this chorus, this big hum which is created. And then you have 2-3 people countering them with facts, logic, and like bees, they sort of disappear into, their hives again to come out again. This has become so repetitive that I think most of us have lost interest in rebutting these people or countering them, because there's nothing more to say, because you see the agenda, you realize the plan, and you think that, sure, it's just not worth the time and effort. So even with Kangana, she said everything what everybody's been saying for some time. They got after her. I don't think people countered it so vociferously as we have done before, and it died out before long. So I think from what we should take away from this is, let it combust on its own and fall apart on its own. Nothing is going to stop the juggernaut.
Exactly.
It is moving. It will move. It's happening. They are nervous, frightened, whatever. I don't know. There's no point wasting time on that, because I think people have understood and seen the bigger picture, and that's all that matters.
Yeah, I agree. I'll tell Nandini ma'am, you might not know, but I think Samir knows Bhav Torsekar. And yesterday he, in his video, he said that everyone is after Kangana's life because she spoke about Azadi. Then why were these people going to JNU and standing by the people who were saying Hame chahiye Azadi?
Yes. Those people have been asking Azadi since 2014. Exactly.
You are contradicting yourself. He said, I am neither against her nor I am supporting her. But then the point is, you people are making a situation.
So much out of it.
Yeah, you are making so much out of it.
There's a fabulous thread posted by Nandini about how the world changed after 2014, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
It's a thread of it's a masterpiece it's a lovely thread. I think
the anatomy of a liberal.
Anatomy of a liberal, yes. Yes. That should be a ready reckoner for anyone who wants to understand what the worldview of this group of people. I mean, it's fabulous, seriously.
Thank you.
Okay, last
I think we've all learned that.
Yeah, please,
we've all learned that over time, that it just doesn't, that it's not worth the fight, because this is the fight of the panic stricken. These people are so panic stricken. They find little, like this Veer Das kind of story. is so ridiculous. I mean, I don't think we should even be wasting time on people like this. I understand that there's a bigger plan, there's a bigger agenda, but it just doesn't matter. We have to ignore it.
I think many of us are just having fun trolling this guy,
Yes.
to be very honest. Because,
Yes.
as you said, this is one of my favorite lines. They're clutching at straws right now. To be very honest, if these guys were very serious about, wresting power back, they would have probably done something different. So they keep going back to their sinister plots to, create some weird things. And like Nandini said, it just combusts on its own. And then they move on to the next one. So they keep shifting their goalposts. Every time some sign of the family travels comes back with a new idea, So, yeah. So we're all keeping ourselves busy.
Lots and lots of toolkits, and they are falling flat on their faces. And, it's actually what you said, Nandini ma'am, it's ridiculous the way, they don't even learn. And what they are not able to digest is like people like you and me coming across and making fun of them. And if you read Sameer's tweets, like I said,
I do.
they're so witty, and they must be thinking, how can a person come and make fun of us, and that too on a public platform?
Yeah.
That's true. That's pinching them. Yes,
I think, Ishari, their biggest frustration stems from the fact that Narendra Modi doesn't reply to them. He doesn't even as much as acknowledge a word of what they're saying. He is just doing what he does. And every once in a while, you will have this, the Purvanchal Expressway launch, or you'll have some big ticket reform that completely puts these people 100 steps behind in whatever they're doing. So he's letting his work speak for themselves. I mean, can you imagine the All India highway network is about, I think, 18,000 kilometers or 1,800 kilometers. I think that's what Anand Ranganathan said in his interview. And in another 3-4 years, Uttar Pradesh will have 1,700 kilometers of highway network, expressway network. So that's work speaking for itself, and that's what the people on Twitter really don't matter, because everyone else is going to go there and cast votes. Those who have received health benefits, those who have received their gas connections, the Jal Jeevan mission, all these things are way outside of, these people can't even fathom as I said once, it took 14 prime ministers and 67 years for us to give water, LPG, health, electricity. It's a shame. I would bury my head in shame if this was the rule we were subjected to for so many years,
So, but Sameer, maybe that was the plan, to keep people always wanting, always poor, because they're easy to control. I don't think that I don't think they just didn't. They had better things to do, and so they forgot about all this. They just didn't want to do it.
It was by design. Garibi hatao every 5 years, and everyone is.
Can you imagine if you were to think about, where's my water coming from, where's my electricity, and or where is my train ticket or my school for who is going to have time to question a government?
Precisely.
You just carry on, and they liked it that way, and they kept us that way. That is why this whole thing has changed, because can you imagine the pressure on them now to deliver with what we have tasted, with what we have seen, with what now the populace is? We want more. We are so thirsting for more that these people have nothing to offer. What do they offer? Aaj is mandir mein jaake, you show you have done this. Tomorrow you say something against Hindutva. It's like headless chicken in a coop. The wolf is coming and they're all scrambling.
And Isha, one more thing these people haven't figured out yet is Narendra Modi doesn't do anything by accident. There is a plan, there's a method to everything, because it's all about, eventually when the dots are joined, the whole picture falls in place. So you started with the Jandan accounts, the world's largest financial inclusion program. And people were wondering, अरे इसके account में पैसा ही नहीं तो कहाँ जाएगा, क्या करेगा, गरीब आदमी है, उसको account लेके क्या चलाएगा? Then came the whole UPI, digital payments, linking your mobile number to your bank account. And eventually, by the time people realized it, basically the dalali was cut out. The subsidies were going directly into people's accounts. You don't need to go to your neighborhood corporator or counselor, say, Baba, mera wo connection karwa do, main 20 rupiya, 200 rupiya dunga. So, see, there with the jam trinity or anything else that you do, eventually all falls into that whole larger plan of inclusion, inclusiveness, raising the lowest common denominator, which these guys haven't yet figured out. Yeah, I mean, we really have a Bunty and Bubbly show going on there, which we should probably enjoy. I think it's just.
That's what I'm saying.
We must thank our stars. We have this opposition, actually. It's
Absolutely.
Yeah, we should redefine the term intellectual, because the people who are questioning don't seem to know why and what they're questioning. They just bring up these things which are falling apart. The whole argument is falling apart within days. So it's like almost losing interest in what the other side is saying. It's like criticism for the sake of criticism. And there's nothing more to add or counter them. It's like, now, okay, we will wait for elections and you'll get your answer there.
Absolutely.
That's it.
I just love the show, and means I can't thank you too enough, because it's so nice to it's nice, light way in which you put the things across, and it becomes very easy for the people also to understand. So thank you very much, both of you. I will again. I think I'll promise my viewers that yes, again I'll have you two back, and. What should I say? Thank you so much. And viewers, viewers, अगर अच्छा लगा, like कीजिए, share कीजिए, subscribe कीजिए. Namaskar.
Namaskar.
Thank you.
Thank you.